Hey there, Mel Abraham here, and I am live. Let me just make sure that you all are there. I want to make sure that I can see the chat. If you're coming on, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is New Year's Eve day around here. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, it's New Year's Day for you. And I just wanted to jump in, when we start to think about this whole idea of putting 2020 behind us. Start to think about, I started to reflect on some things about what are some of the lessons that we've learned? What are some of the lessons that I've learned in this journey that we called 2020, which was definitely a journey for many of us. And so one of the things that I just wanted to kind of jump on and say, let's just talk about some of the lessons that have come out of 2020, the financial lessons, the money lessons, the things that came out that maybe you might find useful as you start to move forward in your world, in your life, as you do that. So, hey there, Charles. So good to have you, my friend. So that's really kind of my thinking is that the first part of this presentation, I just and this is really kind of informal, but first part is I just want us to reflect on a few things. Then I want to talk a little bit about some money lessons that it came about. Totally here to answer some questions if you guys have it, and have a conversation. And let's do some things to start to drive 2021 in a different fashion than maybe we felt in 2020. And so here's the first thing to understand it. And I've been on this crazy journey. Now, my journey in my mind started back in June of 2019. So it's been an 18-month journey for me of ups and downs and craziness. And look, 2020 for everyone, no matter how you ended up, was a tumultuous ride, to say the least. We had everything from the pandemic, which we still are not completely out of. We're still in lockdown. We've got the new strain that seems to be coming around. So there's working on the vaccine. We had that. We have the social unrest and the emotions and everything that came around with that. We have the election. We have the divisiveness that I see in society. There's just so much that has come about. It certainly has been a roller coaster for sure. And I don't think anyone was exempt from being on that ride, Charles. It's just the way it's been. And so the challenge really is less about the ride and more about the lessons. What did we learn in this process? What did we learn that maybe make us look at things differently, decide that we want to do things differently, to realize that we can be different, that we can make a difference, that we can do some element, take control back of our life in a way that matters. And so here's the first thing that I think I'd love to just kind of throw out there for us, and I'll write these down for you. Is the first is that let's do this. We're not going to use red for New Year's. I mean, the first thing is to realize that nothing lasts forever. Okay. And I mean this financially. I also mean this emotionally and physically, is that yeah, we may still be in the middle of a pandemic. We may still have some of the challenges that we've had before, but nothing lasts forever. And we know that there's an end to it. Now, where that end is, who knows? But knowing that there's an end to it becomes important to understand, because if we think that there is no end, because here's the way I look at this. Why do we need to know that nothing lasts forever? Is so we can have hope for a better future. See, those that have struggled through 2020, the biggest thing that they need right now is hope. And I got to tell you, it's huge. It's huge that there is hope, that there is a difference, that you can make a difference, and that this isn't your lot in life, that you're sentenced to a life sentence. we have the opportunity to make different decisions. We have the opportunity to make different actions to get different results. And when you start to do that, that's when we all of a sudden start to see that things will be different. So the first thing I think is this idea that nothing lasts forever. Now, let me give you the other side of that. When we talk about nothing lasts forever, even some of the good stuff we need to be careful about, to getting too cocky, to getting too resting on our laurels, to doing that, because that may not last forever. You know, this idea of complacency, if you will. And I've always said that complacency is the first step to crisis. And what I mean by that is that when we start to get complacent, when we decide to stop being vigilant about our life, when we decide to stop being vigilant about our relationships, about our health, about any aspect of our life, that complacency sets in, and that's when it's the first step towards crisis. And so I'll give you for instance. Many of you know the challenge that I've been on, and the things that I've gone through, and everything over the last 18 months. I have diligently watched over my finances, because look, I'm an accountant. So if I'm not going to watch over finances, who is? So I took care of my money. I always checked my money and my business and my business growth, and even my relationships. There was aspects of my life that I was constantly having my finger on the pulse of. But there was one aspect that I kind of let go. And I let it go because I thought everything was fine, because it looked fine from the outside. I was eating right. I was exercising. I thought everything was fine. But what happened is that I had not seen a doctor for probably 7 years. What happened is my wife and I moved from where we used to live. We moved down to Orange County, down to Laguna Beach. And all my doctors were back 100 miles away. So I didn't find doctors down here, but because I felt it, I thought everything was good. And so I went 7 years without going to see a doctor. Now, if I had left 7 years off and ignored my relationship for 7 years, or ignored my finances for 7 years, or ignored other aspects of my life for 7 years, how would they go? Well, that's kind of what happened with the health, because a year and a half ago, I got diagnosed with a tumor in the bladder, bladder cancer. Now I'm fine now. I'm good now. I feel great and all that stuff. But here's the lesson in this, I think, is that 7 years, had I directed my health the same way, had I been diligent with my health the same way, just checking the pulse, checking everything on a regular basis. I'm not saying weekly or anything like that. I'm saying at least go and get a physical. Had I gotten a physical, they probably would have checked. They probably would have caught something in the blood, in the urine, and whatever. Maybe this is too much information, but the point is that the tumor that they had to take out in July of 2019 turned out to be 7.5 centimeters large. Okay, larger than a baseball. My point is this: at that point in time, I was at risk of losing my prostate, having a tube and a bag in a kidney, and potentially losing my bladder. Okay. Now, God willing, it never happened, and everything is good. However, my point is this: had I stayed on top of it and diligently watched over the things that mattered, health, relationships, the finances, spirituality, emotional well-being, all of those things, and just had a process to take care of it, the tumor would have never gotten to that kind of risk. It would have never grown to 7.5 centimeters. We would have likely caught it much, much sooner, and we would have been dealing with a much smaller problem. So complacency is the first step to crisis. And so one of the things to think about is this idea of nothing is forever. And then the second thing to think about, and then we'll start getting into some of the finances thing, is this. And I think we have all seen this because of our silo, is connection matters. this idea of how do we connect with people? How can we connect with folks in a sense that we've been siloed, we've been isolated, we've been, even this, I get to do live and I get to have conversations with you and I see you all jumping in here and I love this and everything, but it's not the same as if we were together. I was just actually on my bike ride and my run this morning workout, and then I was talking with one of my neighbors and we were having this conversation about the physical presence of people and the need to have that connection. And so what I want us to think about is, how do we do this in 2021 as we start to move through this and really look at things and say, how do I build connection into this? Because here's what I know. Connected people are happier people. Happier people make better decisions. Happy and better decisions lead to better results. Okay. And so that's why I think connections matter in some of the things that we're doing. So, and I'm looking at I'm seeing the comments. I'm going to jump into them. Know that if you're not on my Facebook page, if you're in one of my groups and making a comment, it comes up as Facebook user. So I'm not, if I don't use your name, that's the only reason why. If you put your name in a group, then let me know. So then let's just talk about some things that I think we can talk about in the sense of money and the lessons that we learned. So I'm going to just draw a line here, and we're going to talk about some of the lessons that I think that I've learned, and maybe that you can take away. So the first is that the first lesson is that cash matters. And I'm going to add to that, debt stresses. Listen, when we talk about finances, when we talk about money, when we talk about our life and talking about safety and that peace of mind that I love to talk about in the Affluence Blueprint, the reality is that your liquidity, your ability to get cash is really important. And in the pandemic and the shutting down of businesses, my wife went to, was getting, saw her nail manicurist, I guess they called them, manicurist yesterday or the other day, and was saying that the manicurist, she said, I can't pay my rents anymore, and she's going to have to shut down. And that's a sad thing for many, many small businesses and for families and the children and the generations. This is going to have some emotional scars in the sense of financial emotions that come out of this that are going to permeate the generations. They're going to change the way they see things in the money side. Now, you've always been told this idea of, get an emergency fund. And most people have said 3 to 6 months in an emergency fund. Now, I have for years have said 3 to 6 months is not enough in an emergency fund. And I'm not saying this to say I told you so. I'm saying this to try and highlight the importance of this, especially for entrepreneurs. I believe that entrepreneurs need to have 12 to 18 months. Let's just call it 12 months right now. I want you to start to target to have cash, because imagine this for a moment. If you knew that you had 12 months of living expenses sitting in an account that you had access to, how would some of these shutdowns and downturns affect you? See, the idea behind cash is that, and it's a two-sided coin, because a lot of people say, well, if you have just cash sitting there, you're not making money. I understand that, but that purpose of that cash is to give you peace of mind. It's not as an investment. It's an investment in your mental state, if you will. And so what I want you to do is to start to think about, how do I start to accumulate some cash? And we'll talk a little more about that, because what this pandemic in 2020 has taught us is that cash will give us some peace of mind. It gives us some operating room. It gives us some margin for error, margin for safety, however you want to call it. So when things start to crumble, or when crisis hits, it's not as much of a crisis. Let's go back to my cancer for a moment. when I got diagnosed, I looked at the idea of I need to stay focused on my health, and the way I needed to focus on my health meant that also meant that I can't in and of myself continue to put as much time into the business, active role in the business. So I had to pull myself away. And the thing that allowed me to do that was that I had an emergency fund. I had a safety. I had a financial machine that I built. Now, this financial machine is the same type of machine that we talk about this a lot in the Affluence Blueprint. Is how do you build a financial machine that supports your lifestyle where you don't have to be the one that's turning the dials, pushing the levers, and running on the treadmill to have it produce the cash? And that's what allowed us this to happen. And I think as we start to move into 2020, one of the questions we got to ask ourselves is, how can I allocate some cash to start putting it away? And I get it. Some of you might be struggling to say, I'm just trying to pay bills. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay. So cash matters. The second thing is debt stresses. And I am not one of those people that say all debt is the devil. Okay. I do think that all debt costs and all debt causes stress because it puts tension on you. When you have no debt and you have cash, you're in a comfortable place. You're in a good place. You're in a relieved place. Now, what I talk about debt stresses is unnecessary debt stresses. So if I'm running my credit cards up for lifestyle stuff because I want the iPhone 12 or I want this new thing that I don't really need, but I'm just going to buy it and I'm going to run it on a credit card because I think I can afford the monthly payments. The stress of those monthly payments will start to put a burden on you. And when things turn, or if things turn on you and you start to have a downturn, this becomes a problem. Does this make sense? Hopefully this is making sense to you. So what we want to do is figure out how can we start to decrease our debt, the unnecessary debts, the consumer debt. The consumer debt is the stuff you consume and it'll consume you in the process. That's spending your future for living someone else's lifestyle today, and start to increase our cash. So that's number one. Number two is this: no plan is a dangerous plan. Okay. What do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that a lot of the companies and the clients that I work with, and I sit on boards of directors and I consult with entrepreneurs a lot. And one of the things that I do with them is this, and it drives them crazy. Okay. It drives them crazy. However, there's a reason for it, and it proved itself out today. My primary goal is, one, to make sure that I keep all my clients safe, the people I work with. My secondary goal is that I want them to fly and live an affluent life. But if I can't get them safe, they won't have the affluent life. I need to get them safe. And one of the things that we do with businesses is they come up with a strategic plan, an execution plan, something that they want to do. With individuals, we created an affluence vision. What is that vision, and what's the plan to achieve that affluent lifestyle that they want? But then we look at it and say, let's test it. Let's assume that we can't use the same tactics, the same strategies, and now can we achieve the plan a different way? In other words, I want to come up with alternatives. I want to stress test it so when the plan doesn't go as planned, which it will, then all of a sudden you have the ability to transition. Because here's the challenge, is that we don't want to make our decisions in the emotion of distress when things are hitting the fan. What we want to do is look for the options and the alternatives when we are peaceful, we're logical, we're unemotional, and we can look at it in a systematic way. And so what I'm getting at is, do you need a budget? Absolutely. Absolutely. You need a cash resource plan. You need to know where your money's coming from, where your money's going, so you can then adjust it as needed and look at the areas that you can change things in. And literally, I want you to take and look at where's my money going? what have I spent money on in 2020 that I don't need to spend in 2021? Where am I earning money that I could escalate or elevate in 2021? What have I left on the table? And start to plan specifically your dollars and cents, because if you don't have a plan, then it's a dangerous plan. All right. And that dangerous plan, it becomes a problem. Here's why this is important. When you put a plan in place, you're no longer reacting emotionally to the things that happen. In other words, the stimulus from the outside causing you to react to do things that you wouldn't otherwise do. Remember what I say is that when your emotions go up, your financial intellect goes down. Okay? When your emotions go up, your financial intellect goes down. So what we want to do is be able to keep the emotions out of it. That means that we make most of our decisions before we ever hit the crisis. And so one of the things to do is to have yourself a plan, a cash resource plan, a budget, whatever you want to call it, where we know where our money's coming from and where our money's going. And we're anticipating the challenges, so we no longer react and we actually respond. Okay. This is something that we do. When I had the martial arts studio, one of the things that we did, we called it stress indoctrination training. And so what we do is we would repetitively train them in attacks. So people punching at them, people kicking at them, people coming at them with clubs. But the point was, instead of reacting to the stress of the situation, they could respond because they trained the reptile brain, they trained the lizard brain to respond logically to what's going on. And we want to do the same thing with your finances. And the way you do that is to make sure that you have a plan in place. I'm just going to look at the comments real quick. Maria Brown, big challenge in finance is getting by the mindset that goes a rising compensation, subsequent rise in taxes, see it in relatives too. That's the financial stress I see and hear about a lot after consumer debt. We'll talk about that, Maria. This is a great point. So that's number 2. Number 3 lesson from 2020 is multiple sources of income. Multiple sources of income. You know, we talk about this idea of diversification. In fact, let me draw this out for you. People will talk about diversification and they turn around and say, all right, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. So we're going to have some things in stocks that's in the stock market. We'll have some cash. This is not drawn to scale. Okay. We'll have some real estate. And we'll have bonds. We might have some alternative investments, things like that. So what they say is to diversify your portfolio, your investments, because through diversification, we start to reduce the risk that can come about. And it's a great thing to do. And so many people talk about it. But here's the thing that they don't talk about is that they don't talk about this idea of oops. Let's do this. Of diversifying your income. For instance, you might have one-on-one consulting. Okay, I have this, consulting. Okay, speaking. Courses. Products. Real estate, stocks. Oops. So what I'm doing is saying, why wouldn't I diversify my income streams? Because watch what happens. If all of a sudden, when I had cancer, I took this out of the game, I still had, and I took this out of the game, I still had all of this working for me. See, the challenge comes when we are a single stream of income type of survival. Most of us have grown up in the industrial age. Well, not most of us have grown up, but we came from an industrial age where we had one job, and that job for 60 years, 50, 60, 70 years. And that was your single source of income. And then you would put it into investments, and you'd have some investments here. I'm telling you that that's a mistake, especially moving forward. We will have multiple sources of income. We talk about the 5 incomes in the Affluence Blueprint. And so there's 5 levels of income that you can bring in. And what we need to do, what we need to do is make sure that we're diversifying your portfolio of income. If right now you have one source of income, one way of making money, we need to figure out how to start to expand that to a second way, to a third way. But let's just get the first way. We want to make sure that that's paying the bills and doing well for you, and you got that plate spinning. Then we'll go to a second way. And that may be buying some investments. That may be a side hustle. That may be doing a product or program. That may be something else. But we're going to start income stream number 2. Then once we have that plate spinning well enough, we'll go to income stream number 3. We don't try to build them all at the same time. We start to build them one at a time and get legs underneath them so they stay going. So we want multiple sources of income. So God forbid something happens to one or two, you've got multiple sources to keep you going. That was one of the things that we did in our life, and that's what allowed us to transition in doing that. Number 4 is, Number 4 is watch your financial diet. What do I mean by financial diet? Okay. In other words, watch the stuff that you're taking into your head, into your brain about financial and money stuff. Okay. Because listen, most of our money education over the time has come from observation. Most of it is through observation. But the question is, who are we observing? We're observing those that are financially successful. Now, when I say that, I mean truly financially successful, not those that have the facade. They're driving the fancy cars. They got the big houses. They're traveling to the exotic places, but they're doing it all in debt. So they're on a financial house of cards that's going to crumble. But someone that truly understands what it is to be an affluent entrepreneur, an affluent person that lives what I call the three critical factors. They live a richer lifestyle, they have a deeper impact, and they have complete freedom. Okay. And so we want to have a richer lifestyle, deeper impact, and complete freedom. Those that are truly affluent. Are you observing and getting your financial education from them? Or are you getting it from Motley Fool? Or are you getting it from the media? Or are you listening to the fear mongers that are out there? What I mean when we talk about watching your financial diet is, what are you feeding your brain? Because that will change your comfort zone and your financial comfort zone. And I've talked about this before, that we have multiple comfort zones, and I'm primarily talking about your financial comfort zone. If we start to get in fear, if we start to concern ourselves with everything that everyone else is saying. Now, mind you, why do the media, why do these news, and I use that term lightly, no matter what station you look at, why do they do the kinds of reporting they do? Because they need advertisers. That means they need eyeballs. So they're going to do the things that get us emotionally hooked, fact or fiction, okay, real or manipulative, so they can have the eyeballs, so they can get the advertising dollars. I'm sorry, there's a bias there. That's just me just saying it. And the fact of the matter is that what I want you to do is to look at it and say, wait a second, is the information they're giving you useful? 1. Okay, so I'll write these down. Is the information that they're giving you useful? In other words, does it apply to you? There's a lot of stuff that I don't spend any time listening to, reading, or watching, because it's not useful to me. If it's going to causing me stress or strain and everything, and I don't get whether it's real or not, then I just don't feed my mind with it. Is there a bias? We need to look at what people's biases are. There may be an ulterior motive for putting stuff out there. They may have another agenda. And so we need to be aware of that. They talk about this whole idea. They call it news. I think that they shouldn't call that. Most of that stuff isn't news. What I want you to do is bring critical thinking back into your life. If you want to watch it. That's fine. But critically think about it. Don't accept it, no matter where it's coming from. Don't accept it, and ask yourself, is there a bias here? Is this useful to me? And then the third thing to ask yourself is to really start to get curious and say, I wonder, and do some of your own research so you can get curious and test the assumptions. So when I look at things in any kind of news format whatsoever, I'm constantly looking at it and saying, does this make sense? And I'll research it and validate it. I'll fact check it. If before I allow it to penetrate in and cause me to do something, I need to go in and look deeper and further. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. So that's number 4. Let's watch your financial diet. What are you feeding into your head? If it is shrinking your mindset, and Maria, I know you mentioned something about mindset. If it's shrinking your mindset versus expanding your mindset, then that's a problem. We don't want to shrink in fear. See, remember, fear isn't something that stops death. Fear is something that stops living. Think about that. Okay. The idea is this, is that if I'm living in fear, I'm not truly living. And so what we want to do is not live in fear. We want to research it, get the facts, and start to make our own decisions and have our own critical thinking factor in all the things that we do. So we take full responsibility for everything we do. Now, so those are the 4 things that I would have you do. Now, let's just talk about the investments that you should make. And some of these may make sense. Some of these will go, wait a second. All right. So what investments should you make? The first one, this is all coming from the lessons of 2020. The first investment that you need to make is in yourself and your skills. What are you going to do in 2021? What are you going to do in 2021 to skill up? What are you going to do to grow personally, professionally, skill-wise, so you can be more valuable, more productive in your life, in your business, and with your finances? If you're looking to sit back and say, I want to take control of my money, then one of the things that you need to do is dedicate yourself to learning about it. And I suggest that everyone, now I'm not expecting everyone to be some sort of finance person and everything, but I am expecting each and every one of you to take the time to take control back of your money. You are not a victim of the system, because the system is the system. It's just an environment. When we learn to work within the system, we can learn to work the system too. So if it's something that you want to learn how to invest in real estate, then you start reading some books on real estate. Are you going to make some mistakes? Certainly. I have. I'll continue to make mistakes, but that's the way I learn. If you want to learn more about the stock market, if you want to learn more about online marketing, if you want to learn what we need to do is create a schedule to skill up. And so one of the first investments to make is in yourself and your skills. The second investment, which will accelerate this, is in your mentors and relationships. Do you have the right people around you that will hold you to a higher standard, that will push you to go further than you've gone before, that will raise you up when you need to be raised up, that will kick you in the rear when you need to get kicked in the rear? All right. And I have some of those in my life. And some of them are colleagues and friends, and some of them are paid relationships. The question is on all of this is that, are you being intentional with these investments? Intentionally saying, this is the kind of person I want to mentor me. Here's the person that I'm going to hire to be my mentor and go on this journey with me in 2021 and forward. And the same thing with your skills and all that. So yourself, skills, mentors. Then number 3 is, now we're starting to get to some money things. Emergency fund. Okay. I'm telling you 12 months minimum. 12 months minimum. I tell my clients, I want you 9 to 18 months, 12 months on average, but I'd rather have you 18 months out. The fact is that we got hit with the pandemic. We got shut down in March of this year. We are here at December 31st. We are 9 months into this thing, and we're not exactly sure exactly when we're going to get out of it. And 3 to 6 months will not cut it. It never would. It's certainly not now. It's something that I've said for years, that we need minimum 12 months. And I'm going to urge you to do that. That means that you might have to start carving some things out. We'll talk about how to do that in a second. So emergency fund is the next one. And then debt pay down. Let's get rid of all of our unnecessary debt. Now, there's a couple of ways that we can do this. If you want to get a debt, a breakthrough, what I call the debt breakthrough calculator. It's an Excel template. This will help you align your debts, figure out what your payments are, figure out what's the quickest way to get them paid off, the cheapest way to get them paid off, whether you use a snowball pay down method or an avalanche pay down method. You can go to melabraham.com/NGE, melabraham.com/N as in Nancy, G as in golf, E as in Edward, NGE. And you can download that. But the point is that I want you to get out of all that consumer debt that's consuming you. And we need to have a plan in place to make that happen. Okay, so emergency fund getting built, debt getting paid down, which leads me then to this piece here. Invest regularly. People get freaked out because the market freaks out. Okay, they start to freak out, and they say, what did you do in March when the market went down over 30% within 30 days? Okay, in March when this whole thing hit. And if you think about it, just to put it in perspective, I think we went down 33, almost 34% in March in just a span of 30 days. The Great Depression was 37% over a period of months, and this happened within 30 days. So it was the magnitude of the Great Depression in a short period of time. And so a lot of people were freaking out, and a lot of people sold. And when they sold, they lost. They lost a lot, because what happened is that they buried themselves down at the lost part. And people said, "What did you do?" I said, I panicked a little bit, just being honest. Okay. I checked my emotions at the door, because remember, when the emotions go up, your financial intellect goes down. I said, let's look at this logically. And I literally did nothing, but I bought, because now there was good companies that fundamentally were really good, still really good. And did they lose 30? Did their earnings go down 30%? No. They're still good companies. So I ended up buying more during that time frame. And not only did we recover that 30%, but we surpassed it. And so my point being is that markets will go up and down. If you are an investor, now investor is long-term, I'm going to say 5 years and beyond, okay, then the likelihood that you're going to get caught in that and letting the emotions of that volatility get to you makes no sense. Now watch this. I'm going to just show you something really quickly. This is the stock market, if you can see that. Now this is going back. Let me get something that I can write on this. Now this is going back to the Great Depression. We're going to 20, to down to 1915 here. Now, if you look at this, this is the downturn of 08. This is where we are today. Now, if you look at this, still the trajectory of this is up. Let's just look at a little smaller piece of this. Now, this is looking at the Great Depression. Okay, so you can see that there was a huge downturn. Then we had this inching up before it starts to ramp up. Okay, and this took a while. This was a lot of years. But now let's look closer to our time now here. So this is current. This is our 2008 drop here. Okay, this is back in 2001, 2. This is the March drop right here. Okay, but if I look at those, what's the trajectory of the market? See, in the long term, this is still going up. If I panicked and got out here, look at what I missed. So we need to be long-term in our thinking and know that if I focus in on one little drop, yeah, this is going to put me into an emotional down spiral. But when I look at this and say, this is the hiccup that over a, say 7+ year view is just a hiccup. And so what I want you to think about is how do we take that longer term view and continue to invest on a regular basis. All right. So hopefully this makes sense to you. So here's the thing. I'm going to give you 6 things I want you to go do. 6 things I want you to go do. These are the things I want you to write down. And in everything, as you move into 2021, these are the 6 things I want you to focus in on. And the first is this, is to find and define your why. Money's not a why. Money is a result. Money's not a purpose, it's a result. If your why is, I just want to make money, therein lies your very first challenge, because it's not a big enough driver unless it's all pure greed. But if it is to have an impact, to create a movement, to really do something that is of substance, that is innate and pulling from you and drawing you forward, that's different. Okay, so first step is to define your why and why you want to do the things you want to do, because that's what's going to draw you forward during the difficult times. The second is to invest in yourself. We talked about that already. So invest in yourself. What skills do you need? What knowledge do you want? What relationships will move you forward? Skills, knowledge, relationships, mentors, and that type of thing. Number 3, I want you to sit down and I want you to do a budget. I want you to do a cash resource plan, which really means that I want you to sit down and look at your cash out. I want you to take your bank statements. I want you to take your credit card statements. I want you to look at all of it. I want you to start looking at what are the wants, what are the needs. The needs are the things that keep the roof over your head, your clothes on your back, the food in your mouth, and keep you healthy. They're your survival. Wants and needs. The wants are the things that you don't necessarily need. Now, you might confuse them as needs, but they're not needs. They are a part of your survival. And what that means is they're not necessary. That doesn't mean you don't do them. That just means you do them consciously. And you say, I'm willing to go ahead and spend on this. I know it's a want and not a need. But that's where you're going to find the money to grow. Because here's what I know. $200 a month, $50 a week, invested at 8% over a period of time, over 30 years, turns it over $300,000. So if we can sit down in this next week and find $200 a month that you can put into an investment over time, we may have just put $300,000 in your pocket. So that's the importance of a budget. That's the importance of a cash flow, cash resource plan, is to do that, to make sure that you understand what your wants and needs are and how you're doing that. And so then number 4 is to invest the money. To get a good investment plan in place that is systematic, that is automatic, and that is consistent. It isn't when you're in the market. It's not the timing of the market that matters. It's the time in the market that matters. It's time in the investments that matter. And so we need to get you in the game, keep you in the game, and stay in the game consistently. Now, I don't sell any investments. I have no investments to sell, nor do I ever want to do that. But what I do want you to do is I will sell you on investing in yourself, because I think that's the place it starts. The key is this. I have been through the 2008. I've been through a lot of downturns, and all along I've continued to invest. Okay. Now, truth be told, there was a few times in there where I went straight to cash. I freaked out. I made emotional decisions and I went straight to cash, and then I watched it right up and I go, damn, I missed that ride. Okay. Point being is that I allowed my emotions to make the decision and not my logic and knowledge and my critical thinking to make the decision. Allow your logic and critical thinking to make the decisions. Get in the investing game. Now, we can talk about what investments and how to do that, whether it's ETFs, index funds, mutual funds, real estate investment trusts, annuities. There's a whole lot of ways to do it. But the first thing is invest in yourself and make sure you have the cash that's coming in, so we have the cash that we can put into investments. Number 5, I already talked about, is define your wants and needs. So you know where your cushion is, where you can start building your emergency fund and get your investing in place. And number 6 is to scale your income. If you have a single source of income, it's time for us to look for, how do I have a secondary source of income? If I have 2 sources of income, how do I have a third source of income? How do I scale my income so I'm not dependent on one strand of income, that if it gets choked off or shut off, I get choked out? Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense to you. So those are the 6 things I want you to do moving into 2021. Find and define your why. Number 2 is to invest in yourself, your skills, your mentors, and your relationships. Number 3 is to create a cash resource plan or a budget, however you want to call it, that defines and works off of your wants and needs, and then invest the money systematically and regularly is number 4. Wants and needs is number 5, and number 6, scale your income. That's it for 2021. If you just did some of those, if you just did those on a regular, consistent basis, that would make a huge difference moving into 2021. Now, I get it. 2020 may have been a rough year and we have to come back from it. Here's the thing that I know is that until we're prepared to accept what is, we cannot move on from what could to what could be. We can spend our time looking at 2020 and saying, I should have, I could have, I wish I did. We can spend our time looking at some of the things that we did wrong and beat ourselves up, but that doesn't take them away. I'd rather you spend your time and say, what did I learn? How can I do it differently? And what am I going to do to move forward in the future differently? Now, I get it. Maybe at the end of 2020, you're no longer where you wanted to be. You've lost ground. Maybe you think it is. Maybe that's the case. But is that truly the case, or is that just the meaning you're giving it? And I don't mean to be flippant, but I do mean to be real and just say, hey, here's the deal. The last 18 months, I haven't really done a lot of work. I haven't done a lot of active work because I was focused on my health. I was focused on my family. I was focused on that. And then the pandemic hit and all that. I could spend the time going, gosh, if I had that 18 months and I really worked it, where would I be today? How does that serve me? It doesn't serve me. And as hard as it is, it's something that I think that we need to come to an acceptance of, look at the lessons from it, and then move forward. I gave you a bit of a recipe from when I reflect on this, and I'm more than happy to go deeper on any of this stuff. But the point is this: you have the ability to make new decisions, and you have the ability to do things differently, and you have the ability, when you do things differently, to get things that are different, to get different results. I know that in the midst of turmoil, it's hard to see the other side of it. When I heard those 3 words, "You have cancer," trust me, it was hard for me to see on the other side of it. But until I took on the acceptance of what is, I couldn't move to what could be. And so I'm asking you, inviting you to look at what is, accept it for what it is, without judgment, without blame, without any of that. And let's look at what could be. And if I can help you on that journey, please, please, please reach out. This is what I'm here for. This is what my 2021 is about, is to serve you, to help you financially come through this, so you have a richer lifestyle, so you can have a deeper impact, so you can live complete freedom, so you can be the affluent entrepreneur that I want you to be. And so that's the game I want to play with you. All right. So let me just look at this, see if I have any questions or anything in the chat. Again, if you're in one of my Facebook groups, it won't show me your name, and I apologize if I don't call you by name when I see that. But let's see. Oh, Nasima, listening from the cold Canadian mountains. Listen, it was cold this morning when I went on my bike ride. I had to put 2 sweatshirts on and gloves and all that stuff. But this was really interesting. I will listen later. Thanks so much. Meeting you was life-changing. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's a blessing to me. And I truly appreciate it. Let's see. Lisa Skolnick, so good to see you. Excellent list for 2021. Critical thinking to Misha Campbell. Yeah, I don't know what's happened. I think we've lost the ability for critical thinking. I'm concerned about our younger generations in just accepting what is on the internet and not thinking through it all and that type of thing. All right, so let's look at Maria's question. A big challenge in finances is getting by the mindset that goes with rising compensation, the subsequent rise in taxes. I see it in relatives too. That's the financial stress I see and hear about a lot after consumer debt. Yeah, so here's the deal. I live in California, and California happens to be one of the most expensive places you could ever live. And the taxes are horrible here. And they're probably not getting any better. They're actually even talking about what they call an exit tax. So anyone that has a certain amount of net worth, if you try to leave the state and not pay taxes on stuff, they want to claw at you for 10 years. I don't know if it's legal, but they want to claw at you for a while. So here's the thing. As you build yourself financially, as you build your income financially, you're going to see that you're going to, they say a new level, new devil. Things you're going to have to deal with different things when that happens. And so as your income goes up, yes, your taxes go up. And as your taxes go up, you need to do different kinds of planning. Some of the things that I do financially, I didn't need to do years ago. I need to do them now. Now, it's not about taking advantage or manipulating the tax code. It's about using the tax code the way it's drafted to make that to make it work for you. Fact of the matter is that taxes is a fact of life. And I look around me, and I live on the beach in Laguna Beach, and one of the prices I have to pay to live where I live, to have the life that I want, is to pay the taxes in California that I need to pay, including real estate taxes and sales taxes and income taxes and all that. And so as much as I'll spend time looking to minimize the taxes, I will also understand that it is the cost of my lifestyle and where I want to live. And if I'm not prepared to give that, because look, I could save 15% in taxes today, just need to leave California. But I'm not prepared to go live in Alaska, South Dakota, Texas isn't necessarily for me. Nevada's certainly not for me, possibly Tennessee, but I love the beach. Florida's not for me. Okay, so I look at it and say, what's the lifestyle that I want? And I'll live that lifestyle and plan around the taxes in making it happen. So It is the game. And as you start to grow in income and net worth, there'll be things that you're going to do differently. Now, by the same token, the other part of that is the taxes will change. You'll make some decisions, you'll do some things, and guess what? Taxes change. Probably next year in 2021 or 2022, we're going to get a tax law change. So the current tax structure that we're in is probably not going to be the current this tax structure in the future. So what I don't want to do is make permanent decisions relative to the tax structure, which I know is going to constantly change. And typically it changes every time the president changes, because they'll bring their own stuff to the game, and there's a change. And we had a major change when Trump came in. We'll probably have a major change with Biden. We had a major change back in 1986 when the 86 Act came in. So it's just part of it. And so I'm not going to allow it to change the way I live permanently, because I know that as a temporary fix. Hopefully that helped answer the question. If I didn't, please reach out to me, Maria. Let's make sure that we do it. So, all right. So Chris Allen and Dale. Chris, it's so good to see you. He says, I have an emergency fund, but not 12 months worth. Do you recommend paying off any debt before adding more funds into the emergency fund? So, Chris, I don't know. I don't know yet. So here's the thing. If you turn around and say, I have an emergency fund and I only have 1 month, I'm going to tell you, no, let's get at least 6 months before we start paying off debt. I actually would like for you to get your consumer debt paid down, but I want to make sure that you have the cushion of an emergency fund at the same time. So if you have 6 months or more, then I would start to split your money and say a portion goes to my debt pay down and a portion goes to my emergency fund buildup. If you have less than 6 months, I'm going to tell you to put it all towards your emergency fund and pay your minimums on your credit cards until you get that emergency fund paid off. Because if things go bad, if God forbid you had an issue, I can always get on the phone with the credit card companies and have a negotiation conversation. So it's super close to paid off, but not quite 6 months of emergency. All right, Chris. So this is great. Get yourself to 6 months, and then start paying down the debt more aggressively, and that way you get yourself out of debt. And then we'll move it to 12 months, and that way you've got that 12-month cushion where you can feel comfortable and safe in doing that. So that's what I would do. Great question. Awesome. Other questions? Anything else going on? Karen is in the house. So good. Thanks for putting the link in there. melabraham.com/NGE is the link if you want to get the debt breakthrough calculator. It's free. It's a giveaway. It's something to help you. I want you out of debt. I want you financially free. I want you to become that affluent entrepreneur. It's about having a richer lifestyle and deeper impact and complete freedom. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Man, I've been going for an hour. Holy moly. So awesome. So here's the deal. Before I let you go, I just want to tell you how blessed I feel today. As I look back on 2020, it certainly had its ups and downs, and we all have had people that were impacted by it. Some of us have lost people that were impacted by it. Some of us are still impacted by it. And I know this, that as we stand together, as we stay together, we can do things. We can continue to do things differently. What keeps me going is your responses, your notes, and the fact that I feel like I'm making a difference. And you've kept with me this whole time. I've been on and off social media because of the challenges that I've had, but I'm back, and I feel blessed, and I'm very grateful, and I'm very appreciative to be on this journey with each and every one of you. And I can't wait for 2021. 2021 is going to be big for you. It's going to be big for me. It's going to be big for all of us, because we're going to take a new view on things. We're going to take control back. We're going to do things our way. We're going to do things the right way. And I'm going to help you through that, because I want you all to be financially strong, financially in control. I want you to be the captain of your financial ship. And I'm not going to have you sit back and have to worry about waiting for a stimulus package or check to come in the mail or anything like that. We're going to take control back. We're going to do it the right way. And I feel blessed to make that happen. So you guys have an incredible New Year's Eve. And those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, I hope you had a great New Year's Eve and a great New Year's Day. But celebrate safely. Appreciate the things that we do have. Let's focus on the gifts of of 2020. Let's understand the lessons of 2020, and let's embrace 2021, and let's crush it together. Thank you, and God bless you all. Cheers.